All right, cool. So we just found our period, and we're saying, okay, well, sometimes period changes, and it's not always the same because in life, like things are not always easy, things are not always the same. So sometimes you might actually have to do something and change some things and make things a little bit like more difficult. So that's what math does. So here, since the period changed, since we just figured out how to do the period and how to make that change, since that changed, the tick marks have to change. All right, so from our parent functions that we talked about from the very beginning of this, we said the original tick marks are 0, the pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. That's what we originally said. Now with our new ones, we're going to always have 0, so that's always going to stay there. But when it comes to these next ones, they're going to be different. We got to find those now because the period changed. Those are going to change. Okay, so that's what we're getting ready to do. We're going to find the new tick marks and then go from there. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. It's going to be, we're going to love it. You're going to love it. I know you will. All right, so we're going to have to find those new tick marks, and that's what we're going to do in example 5. Example 5. We're going to find the new tick marks. So we're not going to do anything else. We're not going to find the amplitude, period, or anything of that sort, or amplitude or phase shift. We're just going to find the new tick marks. Which with this, we're going to actually deal with finding our period first and then go from there. So let's go ahead and do this part. All right, if you're concerned about the actual example number changing from like 3 to 5, yeah, this technically is like an original notes were example 5, but there was actually example 3 was example 4 and so on and so forth. So yeah, pretty much there was no change. We didn't lose anything between example 3 and 5. Is actually it just continue on. This is the right numbers for stuff. So example 3 should have actually been example 4 and now example 5. So yeah, so if you see that part, it's okay. It's okay. So don't be scared and be like, oh my gosh, what happened? Oh my gosh, we changed it. No, we didn't. It's the same thing. It's all good. You're still in the right track. And if you just need to say this is example 4, just go ahead and write down 4. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. All right, so here we're going to go ahead and find the period, and then we're going to go and find the new tick marks. And this way, it's going to be very simple, very easy compared to what I used to teach the students. So here it's going to be very quick and easy, or quicker, I should say. All right, so first off, we know our K is 5. That boy right there, that's 5. That's your K, right in front of X or in front of theta. All right, our period is going to be 2 pi divided by K. So it's 2 pi divided by 5. Right, and you should have seen that before, like that 2 pi divided by 5 was familiar with the example right before this. All right, so now we're going to talk about our new tick marks. But before we get there, I'm going to do this because, again, I'm a visual learner, and I don't know if some of you guys are, some of you guys aren't. As a visual learner, I kind of need to see things visually, have things out for me. So as you can see, our tick marks are going to change simply because our period is not 2 pi anymore. It's 2 pi over 5. So here's what we're going to say. Our period's always going to be that last tick mark. So 2 pi over 5 is always going to be, well, that period, whatever your period is always going to be that last tick mark there. Every time. Always the last tick mark. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use that to help us to find the other tick marks. So you might say, okay, when we go through this, wait, why did we go in that direction? That's kind of awkward, kind of weird, but it's the one that works. All right, so we're going to start off with finding our middle tick mark right here, the one that's in the smack dab in the middle. Oh, can't see that. Running out of colors. We're running out of ink on that one. All right, to find the middle tick mark, we're going to take the period and divide it by 2. So we're going to take whatever our period is and we're going to divide that by 2, which requires us to have to do some other stuff that we remember back from your earlier math classes. All right, so our period is 2 pi over 5, and we're going to divide that by 2. And hopefully you guys remember the whole thing of dividing by a fraction or dividing a fraction by a whole number. Remember that keep, change, flip. So don't lose that because we just talked about that in the last video. Don't lose it. It's coming back again. And so here we're going to do this same thing as saying 2 over 1. So we're going to say 2/5 or 2 pi over 5, sorry, times 1/2. And that's going to give us 2 pi over 10. Or if you reduce that down, because you can divide both of those by 2, you can get pi over 5. All right, so our middle one here is pi over 5. All right, so again, you might say this is kind of weird, but to find our first, we're kind of working backwards a little bit. To find our first tick mark, we're going to take the answer we just got and divide it by 2. It's always divided by 2. So here again, we're going to take the middle tick mark and divide it by 2. Again, every time you're divided by 2, or if you keep it in your head, you're actually taking this one and multiplying it by a half. You're always going to either say you're going to divide by 2 or you're going to multiply by 1/2. You'll get it right each time. It'll be easy. All right, so for our middle term, it's pi over 5. We're dividing that by 2. And again, remember, we're going to keep, change, flip, which means we're going to multiply by 1/2. Because remember, that's 2 over 1. All right, so we multiply that by 1/2. We get pi over 10. And let me change the color so that things don't get confusing. It's not changing. All right, let's do dark purple then. All right, so we have pi over 10 for the first tick mark. All right, so for the last tick mark, we're going to go ahead and just add up the first and the second one. Oh, the third tick mark. We're going to add the first and middle tick marks. So again, we're going to have to remember how to do this. So our first tick mark is pi over 10. We're going to add our second tick, our middle tick mark, which is pi over 5 together. And remember, in order to be able to add them together, they have to have a common denominator. So I'm going to do that really quick. And they have to have a common denominator here. Multiply this by 2. Multiply that by 2 to give us 2 pi. And between 5 and 10, 10 is the common denominator. So multiply that by 2, 5 by 2 to give you 10. And then multiply 10 by 1, 10 by 1. All right, so we add them up together. We get 3 pi over 10. And so that is our third tick mark. And so again, as a recap real quick, we find our period. So we find the period first. Then we divide the period by 2 to find the middle one, that middle one. To find the first one, we go ahead and divide the middle one by 2 or multiply it by 1/2. Either divide or multiply by 1/2, either one. All right, and then we find the third one by adding up the first in the middle. Sorry, there. So we find the third one by adding the first in the middle. All right, and that's it, guys. That's all you're going to do. I promise you the old way of doing it is a lot longer than this, but this is just simple and easy. Get it done really quick. All right, so that is it, guys. That's all you have to do. And we're going to do the same thing when it comes to our next example, but we're going to graph it too.